Hey, today let's learn about user roles and permissions. The role you assign to each user will set the data and actions which they'll have access to in your system. Let's start by using the settings gear and then clicking the roles option to open a list of all the roles in my system. Here we can click on any role to edit it. For example, let's click on the sales rep role. Now we're looking at the permissions for any user who is assigned this role. Using the three-dot menu, you can choose to delete an existing role. You won't be able to delete roles which are currently assigned to any users. If you'd like to delete a role which is in use, you'll need to assign a different role to any users who use the role you'd like to delete. You can also choose to duplicate a role. By duplicating a role, you'll create a copy of the current role which has the same settings. In this way, you can quickly create similar role permissions. After duplicating a role, you'll see that the name of the role will be set as the name of the original role followed by the word copy. We can easily reset this by clicking on the current name and typing in a new name. Before we get into the actual permission settings, let's go over one last option. The role default menu option will let you set up a default top bar menu for any users who are assigned to this role. Users are, of course, able to personalize their top bar menu however they'd like, but in this way you can start them off with a menu which includes all the objects they'll use most frequently. For example, for the sales rep team, you may include the accounts and deals objects. This will help them acclimate to the system better within their onboarding process, as their system will start off customized to their daily activities. Now that we've gone over different role settings, let's go back to our main roles page and use the Add button to create a new role. Within each role page, there are two sections. On the right side, you'll find a list of actions, such as the billing action or the merge records action. By clicking the circle next to each action, you can choose which actions users with this role will be able to perform. For example, if you click on the check mark next to the billing action so that it's not filled in, users will no longer be able to access the billing option. If you leave the blue check next to the bulk edit action, users will be able to perform bulk edits within the system. In this way, you can set exactly which actions are enabled or disabled for this role. On the left of the page, you'll find a list of system objects. Each row controls the permissions for a specific object, and the columns set the different permission options. The first column will show the name of the object, such as accounts or activity logs. This list is alphabetized for easy finding. Let's use the accounts row as an example and go over the different permissions you can set. The first column is create. This will set if users can create new records, such as adding new accounts. The next column is read, and will set if users can access this type of data. The read option must be enabled in order for the other options to be relevant. To provide a role with permissions to an object, always enable the read option and then set the rest of the options you'd like to provide the user with. If you disable the read option, users will no longer have access to the relevant object or any of the data within it. For example, by unclicking the check by accounts, any user with this role will not be able to see the accounts object or any account records. The next column is edit, which will let you edit our records details. For example, by enabling edit for the accounts object, users will be able to update the account's details like its name, status, and any other fields. Finally, you can use the delete column to set if users will be able to delete records. For example, you can disable the delete option for accounts so that users will not be able to delete any existing account records. By using these different options, you can set how users can interact with different objects. The final column is sharing and sets which records within the object this role will be able to access. This will be explained in depth in the next video. Let's set up our new role for the accounting team. We can give it a relevant name and then set each object. I'd like to start with an empty slate for all the columns. To do this, simply hover next to each column and click the circle. In this way, you can quickly enable or disable the entire column. Now let's disable the actions which aren't relevant for our accounting team, such as the API option. We can now go back to our objects. We won't set up every object now, but let's enable read for the deals object so that the accounting team can see the different deals and money involved. I won't provide the create, edit, or delete options as I only want this team to be able to see the information here, but not change it. My accounting team regularly works with tasks to manage their work, so I'll provide them with full access to the tasks object. By following this process for each object, you can ensure that each role has access to the specific data in the system which they work with, and can only interact with it in the way they need to. After setting up all of a role's permissions, be sure to save it. Your new role will now appear in the role list. As a final and important step, you can assign your newly set up role to the relevant users. First, jump over to the Users section from the nav bar, and then select the user whose role you'd like to change. Now scroll down to the role field and edit it. By clicking the magnifying glass, you'll open a list of all the system roles. Let's search for and select the new accounting role to assign it to this user. By saving this field, this user will now be assigned to the accounting role and have the access level which was set for this role, such as access to tasks and to read deals. By setting up different roles and assigning them to your system users, you can create personalized systems for each user which ensure that they can only access and change the data which is relevant to them.